Welcome to lesson 1.4. This is learning target 5 for lesson 1.4. The learning target for this is that we are able to, at the end of it, you should be able to identify a point and the slope of an equation, then graph each equation using point-slope form. Point-slope form of an equation is written the following way. Y minus y sub 1 equals m times x minus x sub 1. We use this form a lot in geometry when we're writing equations, and even in Algebra 1 when we're trying to write linear equations, because as long as I have a point and the slope, I don't need to solve for the y-intercept to write the equation. I can actually plug them in to this formula, and then I can simplify to get the equation into slope-intercept form. So for this equation, in this form, we have a point x sub 1 comma y sub 1. And those are the values that get placed right here and right here in the equation. So if y sub 1 is negative, then that would be minus a negative, which would make this a plus between the y variable and the number in the equation. M is the slope. This is the y variable in the equation. So I'm going to write variables, and this x is the x variable of our two-variable equation. So in this particular example, we can see the slope. The slope is 1/3, positive 1/3. We can also see a point. Remember that it's going to be minus. So if these are positive numbers, then this is going to look like a negative number when the equation is done. If they're negative numbers, it's going to look like a positive number when it's done. So when I'm going to find this from the equation, I'm actually going to take the opposite sign of what I see in the equation. So my x-coordinate of my point is next to the x in the parentheses. So the opposite of -4 is 4. And the opposite of the y-coordinate is 1. And that's when the y and the number are on the same side of the equation. If this were moved to the other side, then it would be the correct value. I could move it back to see it in point-slope form. All right, so now we're actually going to start to graph this. We just start at our, it doesn't say to write in slope-intercept form yet. We'll get that to that in a little bit. It says to plot this, so we've got 4, 1 as our first point. Then I'm just going to follow the slope to get my next points. I'm going to go up 1 and right 3. Up 1, right 3. Now, unfortunately, I can only get one additional point on there if I'm going up and right. So I'm going to have to reverse the slope, because the slope of -1 over -3 is equivalent, because that would equal positive 1/3. So I'm going to go down 1 and back 1, 2, 3. Down 1 and back 1, 2, 3. Down 1 and left 1, 2, 3. Down 1 and left 1, 2, 3. Following the slope of -1 over -3. So my original point right here in blue from point-slope form, and now I connect all of these points with a straight line and put arrows on the end to indicate that the line goes beyond my graph. Let's take a look at another example. Y equals 3/2 by the quantity x plus 1. Notice this looks a little different than the one we just did. Over here I had y minus 1. Here I don't have y plus or minus anything, and I check over here to see if maybe they moved it to the other side through addition or subtraction. They didn't. There's nothing here. So that's really like y minus 0. Our slope is the multiplier on the parentheses here, so that is 3/2. But I can't use the slope until I have a point, either the y-intercept or some other point that is true for this equation. That point has an x-coordinate that's the opposite of what I see in here, so -1, and a y coordinate of the opposite of what I see, but there's nothing there, so it's 0. So I go to -1, 0, and put my first point. It's actually our x-intercept, not our y-intercept. And we're going to follow the slope of +3 over 2. So that's up 3, right 2. 1, 2, 3, 1, 2. Up 3, right 2. I can only get 3 points, which is enough to make my line. But since I'm added and I know the slope, I'm just going to use it to get my other points. To reverse this slope, I'd make them both negative, and it's still the same slope, it's just going in the other direction, down and left. So down 1, 2, 3, and left 2. Down 1, 2, 3, and left 2. This gets me the rest of the points. I connect them with a line, draw arrows indicating that the line extends past my graph. Please try this for letters A and C. Take a moment to try this for letters A and C. Alright, so you should have gotten for letter A slope of -1/2. Now again, we've talked in class before that you can write this as -1 over 2 or 1 over -2, okay, or -1/2 as it's written right there. So I can use either of these once I have my point. My point is the opposite of x, of what I see next to the x, the opposite of what I see next to the y. So my point is -2, -5. So starting at -2, -5, I put my point. And from there I will go, I'll start by following this. This is down 1, right 2. Because right, this is negative and negative is down. And this is positive, and so that's right. So I go down 1, right 2, down 1, right 2, down 1, right 2. I can also reverse that slope as I did here, which this is up 1, left 2. So up 1, left 2, up 1, left 2, up 1, left 2. I have all the points that will cover this graph. I connect them with a straight line and put arrows to indicate it will extend beyond. For letter B, just be aware that your slope, if you were doing letter B, your slope is -3 over +1. You could reverse this slope by doing +3 over -1. It still gives you a negative fraction, or a negative integer, -3. The point, if you were to do this one, would be +1, +1. But I asked you to do letter C. In letter C, the slope is multiplied by x. In this case, I have no parentheses though, because my parentheses, if they were there, would be x minus 0. So that's why they dropped the parentheses, it's just the variable x. So that means that, yes, my slope is 2/5, or if I need to reverse it, it would be -2 over -5. And my point is 0, the opposite of what I see next to the y, so +3. So starting at 0, 3, which turns out to be the y-intercept, by the way, we could go up 2 and over 5. I could also reverse that slope and go down 2 and left 5. 1, 2, 3, 4. And then I can connect my line, and that's it. So point-slope form, you can graph using point-slope form. Please click into the next video for learning target number 6.